Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hi, everybody. Jackie Woodside here with another edition of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. Thank you so much for being with me today on today's episode. I just so appreciate that you and I are people that care deeply about awakening humanity to the truth of who we are. So with that, I want to proceed today's episode by just talking to you with me. I normally interview experts from all kinds of wonderful fields, authors, teachers, speakers, people who are deeply committed and experts in what it takes to live life more consciously. But I also love this topic, and I have a few things to say about it. So today, it's just me talking to you about what it takes to transcend in this world from living in the sense of the human ego, your personality and tendencies and habits and proclivities, to transform yourself to be lived by your highest sense of self, your highest essence. To me, that is the purpose of our lives. Why we are here is to live a life transformed in consciousness, being the true essence of our divinity in all we do, in all we say, committing our lives to creating a world where love prevails. When I was back in my 20s and 30s, in my early 20s, I was actually in a domestic violence relationship. And then after that, I had a series of just a lot of relationship drama and financial difficulties. And at some point, I had to wake up and recognize that the common denominator in all of these problems in my life was me. I was the common denominator. And that sent me on a spiritual inquiry, on a path to really begin to realize, make real inside of myself, the truth of who I am. The first thing that I really needed to dig deeply into was, what is the role of the ego, the human ego anyway? What's the role of the human personality? And my studies led me to become a psychotherapist, for one. I've been a therapist for 30 years. I've also been a coach for 30 years. So this passion of mine of what it takes to live life consciously is really what has driven my entire life. And what I see about this is that your brain and your personality, the human ego, is designed for you to survive, but not necessarily for you to thrive. The ego is designed to keep you safe, to not take risks, don't stick your neck out, don't stand out, to be careful, to not be separated from the herd. Our human evolution is part of what gives rise to the way that we function in our neurological functioning and in our psychological functioning. And the only path to transcending the proclivities of the ego is by using your spiritual essence, transforming, you've heard the experience that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, I say we're entering into an era. It's time now in conscious living for us to be spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. That's how I want to live, and that's what I believe is our path to creating an awakened world. So the role of the ego and your personality is simply to keep you safe. Now, how your mind, your brain, and your personality interprets safe is part of the problem, because it's, in terms of our human evolution, safety meant not being separated from the pack and being hypervigilant, on constant lookout for that which might kill you. The tiger leaping out of the bushes, or the bear that was hiding behind that big tree. But today, we don't have those kinds of constant threats to our physical survival, but our brain and our neurological conditioning has yet to keep up. However, we have the capacity to use your higher mind to train the neurological operations of your brain and live a conscious, transformed life. So what is the role of the ego? It's simply to keep you alive, to keep you safe, to make sure you don't do things that, that are going to separate you from the pack. And how does that manifest in your life? The ego manifests in your life through things like, I don't feel like it. I'll do that later. I'll get to it tomorrow. That chronic procrastination that maybe some of you deal with. It also manifests in things like what we call fear, but is really anxiety. That sense of, well, I could do that, but what if I fail? What'll they think of me? That's different than what I normally do. What will people think? What will they say? That sense of being marginalized, ridiculed, criticized is a lot of what will keep you the same. That's really it. The ego is designed to keep you the same because it interprets same as safe. But we know that you are here to bring forth your highest sense of self in all that you do. So how are you going to take risks and bring forth your highest self if you stay the same? When I was a full-time psychotherapist, having this dream and desire to be a teacher and speaker and coach and be a full-time author and out changing lives on bigger platforms, my little self, my ego self said, yeah, but what if? How are you going to make a living? What will people think of you? You're going to be judged. All of those same manifestations of the ego. But at some point, I had to decide to talk back to it. And I remember the day that was a turning point for me. I was sitting in the sanctuary of a Unity church in Amesbury, Massachusetts, Unity in the River. And the minister, the Reverend Shipley Allenson, used a quote from the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. And the quote was simply this: if you bring forth what is within you will save you. And if you do not bring forth what is within you will destroy you. And I thought, that's what's happening to me. I have this inner desire to be a speaker and a teacher and an author and a coach and have this bigger platform than just hour to hour in my psychotherapy practice. But I was too afraid, and it was killing me. Now, I don't mean killing me like I had cancer and I had to show up at Johns Hopkins Hospital every week. I don't mean that kind of death, but it was killing my energy, my life force, my confidence, my sense of self, my vitality. So it was dying a slow death. It was that Emerson quote, those who, the men lead lives of quiet desperation and die with their songs still in them. I was dying with my songs still in me. So that was exactly what I was experiencing. That is how the ego manifests. It will always serve to keep things the same through fear, through anger, through procrastination, blaming other people for the way that your life looks. I know early on in my 20s and 30s, I certainly did my fair share of that. But today I know that the way that my life looks, the quality of my life, my day-to-day decisions are entirely up to me. And you could say, well, Jackie, that's fine for you. You're self-employed, but I've got a boss and I've got kids and yeah, I get it. I am self-employed and maybe you're not, but each one of us, every day makes decisions that give us the quality of our lives. So staying in your job is a decision. If it's a place that you're unhappy, not starting that business, not writing that book, all of the things that we do are decisions that we make day to day. Not only what we do, but how we interact with what we do. So look, now I'm a full-time speaker and teacher and author and coach, but do I love every single thing about this business? No, absolutely not. So there are things that I still have to grapple with that I, quote unquote, don't like about this business. But who do I get to be? I can come at it grumbly and complaining, or I can come at it like, I'm so grateful that I get to be in my full manifestation of my self-expression. So there's managing your day-to-day decisions about what you do. And then at a deeper level, there's managing your day-to-day decisions about who you be. So how do you make this transition of moving from being lived by your ego to being lived by your higher mind, what I call your God self on earth, your essence, your essential nature? How do you move from ego to essence? You move from ego to essence by being radically aware of what you believe, what you think, how you feel, how you interact in the world, bringing that awareness to everything that you do so that you can shine the light of the higher mind and change your thought patterns, which will change your behavioral patterns. How do you do that? You pay attention to the way that you're thinking, and you have to recognize that the way that you think, your thoughts are not the truth. It's just the way that you think. So your thoughts of, I can't do that. What will they think of me? I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I'm not old enough. I'm not educated enough. All of that. Who will want to listen to me? I just had a coaching call yesterday where one of my clients said that. Who's going to want to listen to me? All of that is from the ego. So you have to catch those thoughts and recognize they're not true. It's just your ego doing its job of keeping things the same. So you develop the capacity to think in alignment with your God self on earth. So if you're someone who wants to make a difference in the world, how do you want to do that? And then how does that person think and talk to themselves? Become your own inner coach through the way that you talk to yourself, through the way that you love yourself and practice self-compassion and self-care. Doing these kinds of one solo videos, one-offs, where I'm just here sharing myself with you. It's not easy, but I take it one step at a time. I keep moving toward the direction of my goal and my highest essence, and I change my inner world of thought and emotion. It's easy, but it's not simple. So you have to stay with it consistently over time. Developing affirmations and mantras are really great ways of helping make that transition. The more you focus on higher vibration thoughts, energy, and emotion, the more you retrain your brain to have a more grateful and positive outlook on life, being grateful for everything you have. One of my favorite mantras is peace, be still. One of my favorite affirmations is I am happy, healthy, wealthy, healed, and whole. And I say these things to myself all the time. So what it looks like to be lived by essence is that you are filled with faith rather than fear. You have a sense of peaceful equanimity about the way that your life is, rather than anxious about the way that it might be or the way that it isn't. And the way that it looks to live from your essence is that you're filled with love rather than judgment. You know, the ego is so good at judging yourself and other people as a way of feeling superior so that you don't have to deal with your own sense of insecurity. But I want you to face all of these human proclivities and embrace them. It's just part of your human design. This is the way it's supposed to be. And your purpose here is to transition yourself from being lived primarily by the ego to being lived by your God self on earth, to grow in consciousness back to the divine essence from which you came. So I invite you to continue looking at these podcasts, listening to the podcast, listening to the speakers that we have. I'm going to be here with you from time to time, giving some short quips and short talks. And I also invite you to take a look at my courses. I have courses on procrastination and life design and your relationship with money. And I have a live course every year called Living in the Domain of Miracles. That's what I want for you, for myself, and for the whole world. Thanks for being here with me. I'm so glad to share today's podcast with you. See you next time.